Alexis, thank you for joining Inclusive Cyber. How's it going today?
It's good. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here and always willing to answer questions because I didn't realize people think my life is interesting. So,
Yeah, I love meeting new people, especially in cybersecurity and IT. And I want to thank you again for accepting my invite. I do a lot of invites, cold kind of messaging on LinkedIn. And just surprised when people actually respond to say, yeah, I'm interested. I'm like, oh man, what do I do with this? Now I have to kind of follow through there. But again, yeah, I love your background. And I know initially we talked, fortunately, I didn't have the recording, so I'm going to have to go by memory. But again, just a simple conversation. Want to know kind of your background, how you got into IT and cybersecurity, because at the end of the day, I want to provide stories, the audience, right? How people came into the industry, and there's no one correct or quote unquote right way to get into the industry. And appreciate time.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and provide a quick background for the audience, if you don't mind.
So I'm Alexis Diediker. I am an OCO, so Offensive Cyber Operations Consultant for ProCircular. We are a cybersecurity firm out of Coralville, Iowa. And I do penetration testing. I do vulnerability assessments. Essentially, it just gives me the rein to hack customers' networks and then help them remediate current risks I see or I'm able to exploit their network.
So I love that background. That's something that I was leading various teams and functions in my previous companies. So I remember one at a local presentation, university, and they were working GRC. And when I explained kind of the pen testing, threat hunting, offensive security, they're like, oh, you're the sexy side of cybersecurity. That part of cyber tends to be the one that, at least from my experience talking to a lot of people in cyber, the first, I guess, introduction to cybersecurity. So I want to start at the beginning. And how did you start, right? Why did you pick that? Or
Got really lucky, I should say. I've never really been into IT in my entire life. I was a bartender for 13, 14 years, pretty much since I was 18. And I was fed up with it. It gets old, it gets very draining, and I really wanted stability. So I had to kind of figure out what I could do for the rest of my life and also enjoy my life. We do primarily work half of our days. So, yeah, my grandmother had told me, she said, you have to think about you're naturally good at and then try to build a career based off of that. And we kind of made a joke that the only thing that I've been really good at is causing trouble my whole life. But I mean, it's true. I kind of grew up with a rowdy crowd and I was a really bad kid. And so I actually stumbled upon penetration testing and I was like, this is absolutely perfect. Is the rock star kind of, see job. So I knew it would be difficult and I enrolled in school and I haven't regretted it ever since. So
I love that. Safe to assume that your grandmother is your mentor, kind of helping you along the way as we navigate life.
I have a family of pretty much nothing but strong women. So I have a lot of those great hierarchical examples and role models in my life. So yeah, they all have, master's degrees and great careers. And I really wanted to follow in those footsteps. And I kind of really could see myself doing this on a daily basis.
So then you go into school, and was it just immediately going to pen testing? That's what you kind of flocked into. Did you look at other areas in cyber or just only that one?
I did. So I kind of figured that I wasn't going to be able to be a penetration tester as soon as I was able to be. So, and a lot of school was very blue team defense focused. I don't think there's a lot of materials within schools yet that really focus on the offensive side because it's kind of, there's like a lore behind it and a danger. And a lot of schools don't even want cybersecurity students on the primary network. Kind of figured that I would end up being, like a help desk person or a SOC analyst. So I was trying to get myself into those things, but ultimately I knew that I was just going to work really, really hard and try to get in somewhere and at least get on an offensive team somewhere.
You're talking about schools not wanting to let their students run wild in their own network. But I think you raise a good point just in general. I think schools are always kind of behind the curve when it comes to technology, right? Our space is constantly evolving and quickly. And I know we're going to be talking about this, the phrase of the millennia, generative AI, but just this is moving at light speed in school, which I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Curriculum takes a while and to get approved and trying to bring that curriculum up. So how long were you in school for? And then from there, what was the next step to, job?
So I got my associates, and I'm still in school. So about to wrap up my bachelor's at WGU in IT cybersecurity as well. It was really foundational for me because I learned a lot of the basics and I needed that knowledge. And I think everybody needs a good, strong understanding of why technology and computers and networks even work. Because if you don't understand that, you can't really conduct any attacks or really help anybody. So adding that primary knowledge is so essential. And so I'm still in school, and that's because I really want to prove and show that even though I do have a few amount of years in the industry, that I am willing to put the work in and that I have put the work in to be doing what I'm doing. And when I was getting my associates, I did a lot of certifications, got accepted to a lot of scholarship programs that have really boosted my career as well.
Then you get your certifications. Then how did you land, your current role? Is it a contracting position or is it an actual W2?
So I had heard of the company that I work for through actually an old boss at a prior bar that I had previously worked at. And his brother is actually our bridge director. So I got an internship. I interviewed, I got an internship, and it was incredible. I did not know what the heck I was doing at all. I don't think any knowledge, anything out there could have prepared me for actually being hands-on and doing penetration testing, aside from shadowing and interning. So after drinking out of a water hose, I was presented with another water hose. I was so knowledgeable and just really threw me into the fire, which is kind of how I thrive. So that was great. And it's what showed that I really want to be doing what I'm doing. It got my foot in the door and I got offered I started off as a consult associate and now I've just been moving up the ranks. So.
And to be fair, when we start any new company, nobody knows what they're doing. I'll touch on a excellent point that a lot of people, especially in our industry, more kind of middle management or even senior executive management, we're trying to find these unicorns that as soon as they're hired, they're running, right? As soon as they hit the ground, which is not the case. You can have 20 plus years and it's still going to take you time depending, on the sector. If you worked in that particular sector, like financial or oil, natural gas, or think it's safe to say that, yes, we're going to be drinking by the fire hose, but everybody drinks by the fire hose. And it's going to take time. And here's where maybe the differences amongst ourselves come in, how quickly we learn the environment. It could be super complex or it could be pretty simple, right? And then from there, it's just going to vary person to person. So you're not alone. Everybody drinks from the fire hose.
It's good to know. I definitely know that now. I did not, as a baby intern, I thought everybody had everything figured out and it was just lost. So, yeah.
in stories like yours, Alexis, that's what, I want to start sharing more to the general population that is interested in to get into cyber, to say, look, it's fine. Yes, you have this education. Yes, you have this certification, but you're still not going to have all the answers. You have that, like you said, that firm foundation where you can continue building on. And as long as you stay curious and wanting to learn, then that's going to be a recipe for success as their cyber career.
Yeah, I always say stay hungry. I say people want to see hunger more than they want to see a know-it-all. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know, not to go off topic here, our industry is known for burnout. The only thing I would say, stay hungry. I agree, but pace yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to do everything, because then you're just going to burn out. And I think our mental health, as I get older, realize that, well, maybe we can't do this anymore because, one, is it and should it be our main priority? Some people might say yes, but other people might say, well, it could be family, it could be friends, significant other, etc. So just definitely pace yourself. But the other thing I want to get to is how you got that internship. So let's talk a little bit about networking, because that's another thing that I find valuable in our industry, right? Because in your case, and in a lot of other people's cases as well, they find their first internship and or job through a network. So how have you built your network so far in early in your career?
President of the cybersecurity club at my school when I got my associates. So that really helped. I got really close with a lot of my professors who are, of course, really close with businesses and other professionals in the industry. I always tell people, especially students, get close with your professors. I still talk to mine. We're Facebook friends, even though I'm graduated. So that and going to conventions, really stepping outside of my element, and only really networked at our industry. So trying to bring all to come into that kind of space and that kind of environment, at least had the social skills down. It was just a matter of less booze sometimes.
So what skill sets in working as a bartender have you brought over and kind of in both industries, if you will?
Definitely my soft skills. Fortunately, people who didn't, at least work in the service industry or some with people, harder for them to adjust to talking to, clients or people in general, teammates when they need help. For me, bartending gave me really tough skin, so not easily knocked over. And I'm also able to really voice when I'm great with something, if I'm not great with something, and talking to people. I think being in this industry has made me more shut in, but I can still pull out that eccentric personality when I need to, or when I feel like a client really needs that to feel connected to.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have lots of stories as a bartender that maybe you could share, maybe
They're about as top secret as my engagements at work. So yeah.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So I definitely love that, though. Soft skills, what I call life skills,
Yeah.
right? There is, again, just taxonomy within cybersecurity that you have hard skills versus soft. And that's already kind of doing the soft skills a disservice. So I'm trying to change the vernacular and say those are life skills, which I would argue are way more important, like you've already mentioned, to communicate, right? At the end of the day, what we want, what the client or our customers need or want when it comes to protecting their network. So that's a vital skill set to have there. So in the industry now, what has surprised you so far?
I'm in the industry now, but I'm also in a new world. I've never been in like a corporate world before. Surprised me. It's not as proper as I expected it to be, or as tight. Definitely not as uptight, especially on my side of things. Being on the offensive team, there's a lot of just, stinkers like me that, goof around and have a good time. And I'm definitely a lot closer with my teammates than I thought I would be. So it's really nice to have that trust and an ability that I can have with them. Other than that, egos. I didn't know that. I mean, I've seen a lot of egos being in the bar. I did not know they were going to be sometimes as big as they are in this industry, but I think that everywhere has that. It's just a matter of weeding it out.
Yeah. What made you initially think that you wouldn't be able to, I guess, in connection with your colleagues or peers?
I've primarily worked with women most of my life, and have just with men drinking and stuff like that. Grew up with guy friends, and I really play more video games than some of the guy friends I have. But know how being a woman, not from a technical background, was going to be received on a team of primarily men. And actually, they've been nothing but respectful. I think they worry about me too much sometimes. They forget that, like I said, I have that tough skin. I was just worried about that. We hear so much, I think, about women being mistreated in certain environments. And I think that does exist. Don't get me wrong. And I still might encounter that, but I have not felt that on my side, at least, that maybe somebody thinks I'm not capable because I'm a woman or because of my background. I have yet to meet that. Generally, I can either shut that down really quick, or they're just less concerned and they just want to see what I'm actually capable of.
Of that. So if a student or transitioning professional came up to you and asked you, how do I get into the industry? What are some tips and tricks that you would provide them?
I have a whole YouTube video on this because I do get asked this a lot, especially being from like a weird background. And I kind of thought the dream position right away. So everybody's like, oh my God, like, what's the secret? What did you do? I would just say, cheat yourself. I would say, look at what you know that you have the knowledge of, and then base your kind of pathway or plan based off of that. And don't leave anything out, even if it seems mundane or boring, because a lot of it is going to be for a while. All ends up worth it. And I would say, out there, talk to people, mingle with the teammates that you want to be on the team of, and ask if you can shadow. Ask if you can, do a day in the life with a good idea of what you're up against and what you could be doing. And that'll give you a better idea of what to prepare for.
And I think one of the themes that you're saying there, I love your curiosity, right? Just asking questions. And, is this and is saying that if you don't speak, no one's going to hear you, right? Probably, involves any aspect of our life, right? If you're hungry, if you're mad, if you're happy, nobody's going to know that unless you actually say those words there or communicate at the end of the day there. So what about somebody comes up to you and asks you about certifications? What certifications would you recommend based on your experience?
If they want to do what I do, again, it's based off of kind of where they're already coming from. If they already have a strong technical background, I recommend practical exams. So like hands-on. There's for mentors PNPT, which is a very hands-on 5-day exam. It's grueling if you're new, but it is for beginners. Or, Point Security CRTO. There's a lot of really good hands-on ones. I think, especially for me, and depending on how they are as a learner, those really, really put it into perspective for me of the things that I would be doing rather than reading it from a book or answering a multi-choice question. It really sets it in for you to where if you're spending 5 days, this exam, you're never going to forget those tools or those flags. Very intense and very exciting. I definitely recommend practical exams, even though they can be a little bit more intimidating.
Great. Let's transition into generative AI. So we're hearing a lot about this, and I'm kind of taking a more philosophical aspect of it. But with respect to pen testing, threat hunting, offensive security, I'll pose a question. Do you think generative AI can potentially eliminate those jobs in the future? What's your take on that?
As of if I'm worried about my job, no. At least not in my lifetime. Do I think the students I talk to, their children and possibly them at the end of their career should start to worry about that? Absolutely. There are things, clearly, I mean, they're the same tools I run every engagement. Sometimes they're the same command, and all it would take is, a couple of inputs here and there for AI to run those things for me. But we have tried to create programs that do what we do completely, and they haven't been able to do it yet. There's a couple automated scanning you could do, check for a couple of vulnerabilities and get an AI to exploit those attacks, but it really doesn't give you the personal intuition and the personal experience of knowing what works and what doesn't work, and what we've seen a million times, and how we can get to certain points in an attack path that maybe AI isn't aware of yet and hasn't learned about, because it needs that time to learn what we as pen testers know, and not putting my full attack paths into AI anytime soon. But I think it does great things. It helps me on a daily basis for like quick scripts, things like that do help on engagements. But as far as my entire job, I don't think I'll have to worry about that in my lifetime, at least.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, but just some question so you use AI for your scripts. Is it, 70%, 80% there and you kind of finish the rest? Just curious on kind of percentage. Is the output really quality?
I'd say I never use it for scripts that are super detrimental. It's normally like if I want to create a tool that maybe parses out certain data really quick when I have a lot of data that I'm handling, or say I'm spidering files from SMB shares, and I don't have the time to personally go through every single one that might potentially have hard-coded credentials. I'll have ChatGPT write me a script that opens those files, looks for certain keywords, and then will separate those files for me. It saves, a tenth of the time. So stuff like that. But it's really it's like one or two tries and it's good enough.
These are more simple scripts instead of more complex.
Oh, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Appreciate your perspective on this, because right now there is a lot of talk, right? I listen to a lot of podcasts, and somebody on LinkedIn that I follow said that if you don't have AI in your resume, we're not going to hire you. And I'm like, so I have my thoughts on that. But the other thing too is for Security Operations Center analysts, that is going away as well. So I just wanted to kind of your perspective, your experience conversation as well, because there is just so much data now out there. Is this person right? Is that person right? But at the end of the day, it's just, you have to do your own research, right? Whether it's, security or any aspect of cyber. Just to your point, I agree. We still have to have humans in the loop for quite some time. And I guess looking at generative AI, let's look at it from, instead of a micro perspective in your particular role, let's look at it from a macro cybersecurity perspective. So you said in offensive security, it's not going to happen in your lifetime. What would AI, and then outside of the SOC, come in and kind of replace that? Because we are seeing headlines where big major tech firms are replacing people and putting AI in place.
For certain redundant positions that, AI unfortunately is going to be replacing those jobs. It makes sense for the organizations financially. It makes sense for consistency. Unfortunately, a computer can sometimes be more consistent than a human. The more complex things come into play, as far as my position, or maybe being, grammar, things like that, where you're really having to make a lot of decisions on the go on a daily basis. That's going to take a lot of learning and it's going to take a lot of learning from more than just one person. And we've learned these life skills, as we talked about, learned mine over the past, 6 years. So take the AI model that long, but still going to take some time. And I'm not exactly sure when I think that it'll be about ready to take over something more complex like that. But I also think the trust that organizations and sometimes older fashioned people have, they want to see a person behind work being done. They want, when talking to them and giving them the real deal, that have been in their environment and that know what they're talking about and handled it with their own hands. I told the customer that I did have my pen test with AI Gen. I'd be a little wary of that. A lot of people still don't trust it to do exactly what we're saying it does. So I think that there's also that part of it too, is how much do organizations and companies trust AI to take over these jobs?
That mentioned YouTube. So what is your YouTube channel and how long, I guess, why did you ultimately start it?
It's really bad. I'm not good at video editing. But I started it because I do a lot of speaking at conventions, and I do a lot of outreach to like high school students and college students, like community colleges, especially for women and minorities, just so that I can give them a perspective of my path and how anything is clearly possible. And I get a lot of questions because I always encourage them to email me. And I was getting the same questions. And unfortunately, with my schedule, I wasn't able to answer every single email that had the same questions. So I thought, why don't I just create something that can kind of encompass all these questions that I'm constantly getting? It's kind of started. And now I just take ideas from friends and customers and people who go to my talks and base the ideas off of that and throw something out when I find time.
Of that, any of your talks online?
I believe some are.
pre-recorded?
They're not on my YouTube though. I hate watching myself talk. So I never seek them out. I believe that somebody just told me they saw one of my talks the other day. So I was like, oh, I did not know that was recorded. Okay. So yeah, they're out there somewhere. I'll have to track them down if I do.
Yes, and I asked just to put that as, show notes for people to see the great work that you're giving back to the community. And, I definitely commend you on that, Alexis, because I think a lot of us in the industry that have, 5, 10, 20 years, we give back. And we need to train the next generation, and especially women and minorities that not in this industry. Mentioned before, it is a male-dominated industry there. We need to kind of change that perspective and, up the beats, if you will, to bring in new, fresh ideas, background. A lot of my former guests come from the music industry. I'm going to ask you about, the organization that you're president in your school. Did you initially start that? Or was that already there and there was an opening for that?
That was already there. And I was terrified because I didn't know anybody at school. All my friends are primarily bartenders or in the service industry of some kind. So I did it to kind of get more involved in competitions and traveling to do conventions. And they bullied me into being the president. Just because I was the oldest and probably had the most responsibility at the time. So it was great. I got to meet a lot of young, awesome souls. And I ended up being able to teach them what I knew because I thought I was so far behind. But I was able to help them out and just meet a lot of cool new people. So
Do you see yourself in 5 years in this industry?
definitely a millionaire. In 5 years, I really am trying to hone more skills around cloud environments and around creating malware, testing, obviously. And I really want to dig into preparing for the quantum computing hacks that I believe are on our way. I think that's scarier than AI. So preparing for that, my capstone for bachelor's will be on that. So the topic gets me excited.
So let's talk a little bit about that because I'm with you. I hate, maybe hate is a strong word. I just dislike how the industry and just society as a whole is propping up Gen AI. And I just can't wait until quantum comes in and just knocks it off.
Yeah.
Pedestal.
Yeah. I'm basically doing kind of my own research capstone around when I think the attackers, when I say attackers, I mean people who have already taken data that they know that they're going to be able to decrypt with quantum computing. And when I guesstimate that they'll be able to do that and what it means when they're able to get their hands on those quantum computers, I think they'll be capable of, and what services, what's going to be at risk, pretty much everything. But I want to really kind of help lay out, kind of prophesize what I think is going to happen. So
Love that. And you said that's your capstone, correct?
yeah.
To get you back on the show and just talk about quantum and, research, because when I was in government, I did some classified work on that way back in the day, and I've been following it up on it. There are some mechanisms of quantum key distribution that could prevent that. So that I always close the episode with, Alexis, is reading and now listening podcasts. So any books that you've recently read or podcasts that you listen to that you like to share, and it doesn't have to be about technology or cyber, that you'd like to share for the audience.
Most of my podcasts are cyber related. Hopefully, I'm going to recommend. Everybody has to say Darknet Diaries. That's just tried and true. It was one of the best podcasts that helped me when I was a very, very beginner, because I was still highly interested, and the stories are helpful for learning as well as just getting an exciting story. As far as books, I try to avoid reading books about technology because I'm normally in school. I read a lot of nerdy fantasy, so probably nothing anybody's going to want to hear about. It's tough.
I'm free to drop a book there on fantasy.
Okay, so George R.R. Martin's Knight of Seven Kingdoms, he kind of came out with after. It's basically about the Hedge Knight. Amazing. So if you are a Game of Thrones or House of Dragons fan, it's chef's kiss. It's really good. I really enjoyed it, and it kind of helps me get over me missing House of Dragons and Game of Thrones. So
I love that recommendation. We'll definitely put that in the show notes. And collecting a plethora of different books. Yeah, primarily it hits on the technology side, but I know former guests have mentioned kind of mental health books, et cetera. So we'll definitely add a new genre to include Missy there. Alexis, I really appreciate you jumping on this call and answering my initial kind of cold message on LinkedIn. I loved our discussion. I love your passion. You're doing a lot of great work, and especially giving back to the community. I think we need more of you. Thinking of Calvin and Hobbes, if we can clone you so you can provide more help to the community and bring in more women, I think our industry would definitely be better off. So thank you.
yeah, definitely the after parties and dinners would be a lot more fun. So if you could copy me, that'd be great.
Love it. But again, hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me.